Yeah, let's go on to the last question for the mic.
My phone dies.
Yeah.
Oh, my
But yeah, it's a very very well. It could be a simple question. It could be a complicated question. But essentially, T, what's next for you?
Oh God. Oh, that's so funny. I'm still doing my masters. It's so, oh God, I don't know why I'm laughing, because if I don't laugh, I cry. I'm joking. I'm so dramatic. I don't know. I actually had my life planned out since I was like 15, so like 11 years, where I was like, right, I'm gonna go to uni, I'm gonna study this. I mean, if I got in, I'd go to uni. That's another story. But I was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do a master's. You know, any other normal person probably, if they knew they wanted to be a social worker when they were 15, would have done it as an undergrad. But, you know, not me. You just want to make my life difficult as much as possible. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I did my undergrad in sociology because I thought, yeah, it's like the foundation of social work. Who did I think I was at 18? I don't know. And then I left and wanted experience with kids. So I did like a CELTA course, went into like mentoring, and I'm doing my master's. But like, I started placement, and like, I mean, I realized in my placement, and that's not to say the placements are bad. It's not. What it is social work isn't as direct as I thought it would be with children. You see them once every 6 weeks, once every 12 weeks. There's not a lot of direct work there. It's more like meetings and like advocating on behalf of them and reports and like forms. And even though I love the job and like from feedback from others, I was good at what I did. I think 11 years later, I realized it's not what I want to do.
It's okay.
I'm laughing because it's like, what next? And I don't know. I think for me, I will probably continue down a route that involves children. For some reason, I'm not a patient person, but when it comes to kids, I have all the patience in the world. And we'll see where it goes from there. I keep using this. I keep saying, oh, I'm 26, you know, going on 27. Before I used to be like, just 25, 24. And I'm still young in comparison, like, you know, life expectancy. What's the death rate? I don't know. Like kids, 70s, 80s. I've still got time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. That's honest.
No. I think it's a powerful place to be, because yeah, the sky's the limit, because you could do essentially whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, my whole perception on jobs is a bit different, because I just genuinely think like people shouldn't stay in a job forever. Like, I don't think you should have one job and then be stuck to that field or that service or that particular company. Like, I always believe you should branch out, do different things. And yeah, your CV might look really insanely long, but you know, you need to keep your brain interested and engaged and activated in a sense. So no, at the moment I don't know what I'm going to do, but you know, I'm sure I'll figure it out. And I think there's also excitement in that. On the unknown. You could get really scared of it. God, if you had anxiety like I used to, then yeah, you'd be terrified of it. But it makes it exciting, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's I guess the nice thing of that you don't know. I think kind of like we said, even like, you know, doing different jobs and not necessarily sticking to one field like for the whole period of your life. I think even from just like a practical point, like it means that essentially you never know like what tomorrow could bring. And that's like that is an amazing thing, I think. And I think like what you said, like you know, like 15-year-old me, what did he want? Maybe not 15-year-old me, but like younger me was thinking that maybe I'd go into nanotechnology or be like a bio engineer. And I wouldn't say it, like I'm kind of doing something. Well, I mean, I'm a sustainability advocate and study environmental science was my undergraduate, and that's completely different. But yeah, I think it's that. It's just like you never know. Like in 10 years' time, I could be in the sustainability field. I could be a business owner. Like I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I'm excited to see what it does bring. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, we're gonna go on to our segment of passing the mic, where, of course, because we're doing this virtually. Well, I mean, even in person, we don't really pass the mic, but we'll essentially be passing over to T. She's performed. She has prepared 4 questions. So yeah, I'll be in the hot seat, definitely trying to answer 4 questions at once. So yeah, let's start off with question number 1, T.
Question 1 is, how was your experience beginning a podcast?
Yeah, it was.
I feel like we did speak about that relatively at the beginning.
Yeah, we kind of did.
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. Yeah, I'd say, I guess the only thing I would say is it was different because, like you said, you had to learn everything on the go. But yeah, I think it was fun because, like what we sort of just mentioned, like it was something new. There were podcasts that I was subscribed to, and I guess one that I need to just quickly plug is they haven't released a new episode, but there was one called Jesus and Jollof. It's by Yvonne Orji, who, if anyone's watched Insecure, she's on Insecure. And then I forgot what the other person's name is, but I know it's Lovey something. But essentially, they were just talking about like their experience and stuff like that. But yeah, there weren't a lot of podcasts I was listening to. But it is nice. So, like I said, get to opportunity to interview people, even to learn things about like friends and family. So like even like not even like just from the guest speakers that we bring on, even like the people on the team. Because like when we did like our first episode was, especially in our first season, we had like 3 episodes where it was just the 3 of us talking about a topic. And for me, I just found it kind of weird because I learned that someone on the team played a musical instrument. I didn't even know that before. So yeah, so it was I would say it was interesting. It was like, it took a bit of work, but yeah, definitely was fun. But yeah, I know we sort of dived into it before, so we can.
I know, I'm so sorry.
No, don't apologize. See, look, I told you, it's the natural progression of the conversation.
Maybe I should like reevaluate these questions.
No, that's all right.
I would ask, okay, I might mix them up a bit. What would you suggest? What would your advice be? Like your top tips for podcasting?
Oh gosh.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I guess top tip number 1. Top tip number 1's a difficult one. Like I said, yeah, in no particular order, because like I said, I'm the worst when it comes to trying to pick one thing. So 1 would be get started, sort of like we mentioned before. Just go out and do it. You never know what there's loads of things you could podcast on, not only just like general stuff, but particular to your experience, your university, your cultural background, like things like that. There's so much that you can discuss that there's probably not a podcast like what you want to do already, and then you can just sort of see how things go. I think the second thing is don't listen to your inner critic, but I think it's like we sort of spoke about in the last one, is like don't worry about sometimes the opinions of others, which sounds like I'm saying you should say whatever you want and like have no consequences. But what I mean is more like, I think the people that we upload the podcast through, Buzzsprout, they sort of like spoke about it on their, they had like a YouTube short about like podcasting and like if you want to get started. And again, they have like top tips as well. But one of the people saying like everyone sort of has that like fear of like, oh, this person from secondary school might see my podcast or like my creative stuff and be like, it's kind of sucks, or oh, this person's really doing this. And I feel like it's just like I don't know, it's just like why exactly like I don't know, like I think I was the exact same. Like I was just like, gosh, I think especially because like there were like with the other creative venture that I was doing, where we were doing like sustainable fashion shows and stuff. For me, it was just like difficult from that front because like I was inviting friends to that, and sometimes they'd be like, sustainable fashion shows doesn't seem, especially like guys, they were just like, it's not really a guy thing, it's a bit weird. And I was like, oh gosh, like if they find out I'm podcasting, like I don't want to get like dragged through the mud. But yeah, no, I think generally like it was just like people did like, not like they didn't care, but it was more like people didn't mind. Like it's, no one ever came up to me and was just like, oh, Jeffrey, like your podcast episode sucked, or like, oh, I can't believe you do that. That's like, people just like, oh wow, you got a podcast, like tell me a bit about it. So yeah, don't always worry about like what your like friends or family may think, because like what we said before about one person wanting to hear your podcast or your content, yeah, there's always someone that could benefit from what you're saying. But yeah, the last one, the last one's sort of like a two-parter. So one is develop like your like strategy. So like, how do you do your podcast? So kind of like what we mentioned here, usually you pick up the mic, it's either like sometimes, well, usually there's more guests than hosts, and they're usually from the same space. So they might be from the same society, they might work within the same organization, things like that. But with Let's Talk About It, it's completely different. And I think it's like figuring out what works best for you as a podcast. So don't base it off like social trends and be like, hey, I saw that I don't know, like, well, this person, they have like an argumentative podcast or like online show where they bring someone on and they're literally just like having an argument for an hour, and they're like popping off and they're so cool. No, it's like, no, just like, if you feel like, like I said, if you feel that you could talk about a topic for 15 minutes and you could keep it engaging and fun, then let that be your podcast. If you feel like actually you want to do like discuss your favorite films with like a friend or whatever, then do that. If you want to talk about your passions and do that, it's just like figuring out what works for you. So
it completely depends on like what your podcast is about, essentially.
Exactly, definitely. And yeah, I think the second thing is like, the second part to that, I guess, is also like, oh yeah, there's one more after this, but the second part to that is like just like be okay to like figure things out as yourself as you go. So like, for example, sort of like what like we said today, like the only thing I know about the guest speakers most of the time, if I don't know them personally, is whatever they put in the job job description in the profile. Yeah. So I'll just see like, if they've got an Instagram page and I already follow them, like I might see some of their content from that and come up with questions. But yeah, usually I don't research the person, and that's fine to me. I don't know. I just feel like it's more interesting to learn about someone when you're sort of hearing, like when you're sort of listening, like I'm literally learning about T as we're on the podcast together. And I feel like that to me is more powerful than like, if I was to just, and again, I'm not saying like podcasts that thoroughly research people and sort of like come up with unexpected facts. And I'm just like, oh, I didn't know in year 7 you did this and you are sort of on this global stage. And it's just like, no, if that's the sort of podcast that you want to go for and you think that, if you think that's something that you're sort of cool with doing, then do it. But yeah, for me, it's just like more to do with like the learning of the guest speaker and sort of like the topic that we might be talking about. But yeah, the very last thing, which sort of links to something I said before, is just, and it actually links heavily to what we both sort of discussed, was like, I think there's always like a focus on like, you need high memberships, you need high subscribers on YouTube, you need loads of viewers, you need all of this, and you don't. Like there's not really a need to stress about all of that. Like I know, oh gosh, I think, and yeah, it was someone I listened to. I think her name's Bria Jones on YouTube. But she was saying that like she got, I think she went from like 10,000 to 100,000 subscribers in a year, and she was just like, she's not saying that's for everyone, but what she said is, when you come up with like, well, if you're like, I don't know, like a podcast or whoever, like if you're coming up with like a target, like, oh, I want in 2023, I want my audience to grow. She was just like, don't be like, I have to have like, I have to have like number. Yeah, like don't put a number to it. Like she was saying, like have a target that you want to reach, but don't feel like because you don't reach it, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was the thing that I sort of took away. I was like, like if people want to listen, like if I don't know, like we get like 3, like I'm pretty sure like our first year we only had maybe like, I don't know, like over 100 or something followers, and then now I think we've got like maybe over 300. But again, it's not like something that sort of like came immediate, and it didn't come from me like necessarily like, I'm like, like checking the social trends and monitoring like, oh, this account's really good, or like it was just like, no, it's just like, oh, okay, I'll look at it
naturally.
Yeah, and it's better that way, because then you'll sort of know like, oh, actually people are interested. It's not like, oh, yeah, and then you're just like, oh gosh, like I've got like, and I think there's always the expectation that sort of comes with it. So I'm pretty sure if Pick Up the Mic got like, I don't know, let's say 100,000 subscribers on YouTube and it got like, I don't know, like 10,000 followers, I probably would have been like, you know what, I probably would be like, actually, you know what, I'm not going to do a placement because clearly I've got big engagement and I want to graduate straight away so I can turn this into a full-time business. And it's just like, nah, like there's a lot of like, I guess, issues that can come from like expecting like quick success, and it can, as quickly as it comes, it can go as quickly. So I think for me that would be my most important thing, is don't get caught up with the views and the subscribers and like all of this stuff. I think the most important thing is if you're getting engagement and you're sort of, even like if it's every week, like I don't know, there are sometimes like where, you know, like I said before, episodes one week might get like loads of listeners, another week then it gets like a couple. But it means as long as like other people are listening to it, then it means, okay, cool, like you're growing each week. And even if like, I don't know, there's a month or week that you're not, it means just try something new, whether it's you like upload your podcast on a new day, whether it's you do it at a different time, whether you announce the podcast at a different time. Like it's just like things like that, which I think people sometimes like get caught up on. And it's just like, no, you don't need to worry about having all of this like sorted out. Yeah. But I think that would be my answer.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So the final question I wanted to ask you was, what makes your podcast stand out?
So I think it's a really good question. And it's something that I guess sometimes we get asked, especially like when you're trying to like pitch your podcast to people and get some funding. People are just like, well, why should I fund your idea? I think I think there's like a few reasons. I think the most important one is definitely that we don't only like focus on like established people, bringing on people who are sort of like established in their careers or in their degree or like have a big following already. Like we're happy to have those on, but we're also sort of happy to get students and staff members and lecturers or anyone really onto the podcast and just to speak about their journey. I think the reason for that is just because kind of like what we were saying, like we've got on our website that like everyone is doing like incredible work. So whether you sort of have like a following of like, I don't know, 100,000 people on Instagram, or whether you've literally got like 50, everyone's sort of doing something to tackle an issue. So whether this is like social issue or an environmental issue, like work's being done. And just because you don't necessarily have like a big following doesn't mean that your work's any like less important than what like a big name or a big person in their industry is. So yeah, I'd say like getting people on who are passionate about a subject and just talking to them about it, I think is definitely the first thing. I think the second thing is the fact that like sort of like we mentioned before, the episodes that we do, we don't necessarily talk about like,
oh my god, I'm so sorry. I just realized that my camera was like slowly going.
That's all right.
I was like so ingrained in your answer. I was like, wait, why is my head like
No, don't worry about it. I saw it and I was just like, I don't know if the phone's moving or like if you're just like adjusting it. But yeah, I think one thing that I like about or one thing that is a reason why we stand out is because we don't like we're sort of focused on promoting like small businesses and organizations. So whether it's like through our MC of the month section or when we do shout outs or when we just talk about resources and stuff, I think that's a key thing, because sort of like linking to the last one, sometimes those smaller organizations are either not well known or they don't necessarily get as much promotion as like a big established name within the industry or within that industry. So I think that would be like my main, I guess, the second one. And then I think lastly, it's because we're as like, without trying to make it seem like rude, I think it's because we're not like promoting anything, so to speak. So like, for example, when we had like I mentioned before, like when we did the episode on like placements, we didn't do it because we want to promote Brunel's placements team, or we want to promote placements and say that placements are the best and things like that. No, we were just like, actually,
sharing experiences.
Yeah, it's just all about the experiences. And I think that's one of the key things about the podcast is, we say that if if, for example, like there's an episode, like if there's an episode we do and, it links with, I don't know, like something that, whether it's Brunel or like worldwide is happening, then great. Or if it links with like a resource and we mention it and we're just like, oh yeah, this is a really good resource, like it helped us. We're not doing it from like we want them to fund us, or we want to like, share so they can like hear us and, work with us. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's because like it's a good tool to use. So like even like, for example, the podcasting platform that we use, like Buzzsprout, on there, like we share it, like we tell people, oh, if you're interested, like you can check it out, not because we want to like promote Buzzsprout or get Buzzsprout to pay us or whatever, but it's because like they do quite a lot of useful resources and a lot of useful things for podcasters, and they don't necessarily like limit it behind like a paywall or you have to sign up to the website to see all of our resources and things like that, which I know sometimes others do. So yeah, I think those are the three things, but I think one last thing is that we're sort of like what we mentioned before, that we're about like the whole learning thing, about like, especially when we do like the podcast or like learning with the guest speaking thing. I think because as a team, like we're all recent graduates, or myself, like I'm still a student, and we're not like big names in our industry yet, I guess, so to speak. And we're sort of like still like learning, we're still growing. I mean, yeah, we're sort of like just very chill. Like we sort of say to our guest speakers, like I sort of said to T before we started recording, that, we're very relaxed. We like to make jokes. We like to sort of like have fun. Because yeah, we while we see the podcast as like a very important thing, we also understand that like, sort of like what we were mentioning before, that sometimes for some people who are listening, this might be like something they play in the background while they're doing other work. For other people, it might be like something that can give them a lot of advice. For some people, it might even be just, like after a stressful or tough day at work, it's their thing to just sort of do to relax.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are the reasons that we stand out. But yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, I hope the rest of my team agrees. And yeah, but that's basically it.
I mean, to be fair, I do agree with you. I think even looking at your videos and the topics you've covered, your podcast doesn't put the ideas and the conversations in like a small box. You cover various different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Because yeah, like we said,
a wide range.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it wasn't something that like planned out with the name, but now it sort of like works perfectly. So I can make it seem like I had it all planned out. Like what you're saying about like each thing is like a different thing. Sort of like what I mentioned when we were doing the intro of the like, now that our main segment is called like the student guide, is it sort of fits into that, because it's like each episode is a new chapter or a new book, so to speak, where you're sort of like diving into like a different person, a different topic, a different theme. And then even like with the broader podcast that we do, it's like we said, like we're covering different things. And I think for me, and for sort of like everyone who sort of helps with the podcast and all the stuff that we do, it's just nice because it means that, like I said, like if someone just wants to find out, I guess, what some people thought about something that happened in a Marvel film, then they can go check this out. If some people want to just see people just like stream a video game or talk about like the importance of diversity in the video game industry, then they can do that. If someone wants to learn more about a particular sort of field, then they can do that. And yeah, it's just like it's all about like learning, I guess. And that's, I guess, the whole thing of Pick Up the Mic is, while we're not only like empowering people and sort of encouraging people to like in their own way pick up their mics and like talk about their journeys and things like that, we're also like encouraging people to learn, and whether they want to learn with us, whether they want to like learn about a particular guest speaker or a particular topic, doing that. And like I said, we're not as a team, I guess, like we're not always like experts in whatever we're talking about. We haven't always experienced like whatever we're talking about. So like I said about the episode we did about living on campus, I've never lived on campus, so I don't really know much about it. But then when you bring on a guest speaker that has, then you can sort of like learn more about the experience and sort of talk about that and sort of know things that you didn't know. And then it's just nice. I guess the last thing I've got to say on this is it's nice because as well with the learning things, because there are some things that I, especially about Brunel, that I learned that I've been able to like tell people, oh, hey, if you're looking for a particular resource or support service, or like you want to know about accommodation stuff, well, this is actually like what the rule is. And they'll be like, I don't know that. And I'll be like, yeah, no, literally, I'm just like talking to someone on the podcast, and they said this, and they said, if you're looking to get your like accommodation extended for the summer, then this is what you do. Or if you're trying to ensure that you can live on campus in your second year, then this is what you do. And yeah, I think it's just that. It's just like, even there is a lot of useful tips, resources, software, revision stuff that I've just learned through the podcast. And I've been able to like share as a resource to others. So yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Is just we just want to help people learn, I guess.
I guess it also caters to like a wide audience too.
Yeah, definitely. Like, like we like to say that we're like really targeted mainly towards like students and young people, because that's essentially like who we are, and we sort of get the struggles of that age group.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's very relevant. Like some of the widest discussions we have about like we did an episode on like colorism. We spoke about representation. We spoke about women's representation. We've spoken about like diversity within the gaming industry and things like that. And those obviously are like bigger conversations than just like stuff for students and young people. So yeah, even though like we might have like a target audience that we like put on our website or things like that, we'll say are our main like focus. Yeah, we sort of work like the stuff that we say is always relevant to other people as well. So yeah.
That's a good answer.
I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, it's
that's a good answer. By the way, he thought of that on the spot.
yeah. Oh no. No. I promise. I promise I didn't read from a script. Yeah. No. It's just I think like we mentioned, like it's like our second anniversary sort of came up, and yeah, it's just weird to see how even like, I think for a lot of people, like they were surprised that it's even been 2 years. But I think for me specifically, it's just weird to see how it's grown within the last year.
You sound like a father.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Like honestly, like it genuinely feels like that. Because it's I don't know. It's like I said, like I enjoy doing it. It's not like any of the pick up the mic stuff that we do is things that I, like if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. But it's just weird that it's grown this much. Like we're doing all these different things. We're like working with people. We've got sort of like a more clear understanding of like what we do and how we're doing it and things like that. And yeah, I think that's just like I was saying about learning, and like we mentioned before about like growth. I think that's what the podcast, like I guess in a way, like it's nice to see that it's grown as well. And like we were saying about like questions about like why is it unique, or how did you start it, and why is it important, things like that. I could probably look back on episodes before where, like you said, I didn't really have like I might have had an answer, but now I've got like a more defined answer and a more clear understanding of like what it is that essentially, myself and as a team, we're trying to pick up the mic to do. But yeah, no, honestly, it wasn't. I promise, it wasn't planned. It wasn't scripted. So yeah, completely honest. Yeah, but yeah, I'm glad you liked the answer.
It was good. It was a really good answer.
Thank you. But yeah, I guess do you have any other questions you'd like to ask me, or?
No, I feel like we've covered so much.
No, definitely.
There were questions, but like through our, I guess, discussion, like they just came out naturally. So it turned into a conversation for the two of us.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I'm glad to hear it, and I'm glad that I answered all questions successfully. Yeah, I'm very happy to hear that. But yeah, we'll now go on to the MT of the Month section, where we talk about amazing individuals and organizations that can help you, or maybe some resources that you could tap into. And today we've got a good one. I just need to confirm the name, because as these guys know, I don't like getting called out for getting the wrong thing. But I believe I will. If I get it wrong, it'll appear on the screen, but I believe they're called the Pod School. And essentially, they're an organization. So they're a couple, actually. And I've completely forgotten the name. But they're a couple that essentially on Instagram do a lot of stuff regarding podcasting. So it's interestingly enough, and I think that's one of the reasons why was sort of sharing them, but also on like a more personal level that I really like their page is because they both didn't have like podcasting previous experience. So they're sort of like, it's called the Pod Sound School. But yeah, they both basically didn't previously have like podcasting experience. So like so Veronica is like one person of the couple, and she, like, for example, was a former lawyer. She became like a self-made entrepreneur, and I think that to me, she, like, that to me is really interesting because it's sort of like you're going completely off where you're like what you've been doing your whole life, and then to just start a business, to do podcasting, to make it a full-time business is really inspirational. But they also like share Veronica and Steve are the couple. They share a lot of resources on like podcasting. So like what's the best equipment to use, what's the best way to structure your podcast, how to get over like podcast FOMO. So you might feel like, oh, for example, because you don't have like, your podcast doesn't dive into a certain like topic or theme, like you're sort of like missing out on an audience, and you're sort of like, oh, if only you were doing what this person was doing. So yeah, I think they do like they do a lot of really good work, and I definitely would recommend. They've got an Instagram page called the Pod Sound School, where you can like check out their page. But they've also got like a YouTube channel where they do like, I think, full like 30-minute episodes on stuff. But then they also do like shorter videos on like, oh, if you want to learn this, if you want to learn that. But yeah, I definitely recommend checking them out, because it's a really great page. And yeah, I really, the dream would again to have them on the podcast at some point. But yeah, no, it's really great to yeah, it will happen. It will happen. Yeah, you heard it here first. So when it does, I'll include this as like a sort of mini throwback. But yeah, no, I think they're a perfect MC for this episode, and sort of like bring together sort of everything that we were talking about. But yeah, before we end the episode, these guys know that we like to do a bit of an outro segment, I'd like to say, called the takeaway, which again, and I'll keep making this joke until I think of a new one. But yes, we're not bringing food your way. We will not be delivering any food of any sort, but instead we're delivering truths and messages. And essentially, T, I just want to ask you, if someone was, just came in, let's say they just listened to they just heard the end of this podcast, or they, you wanted to sum up everything that we sort of discussed in this episode, what would be like your takeaway message for them? What would be the thing that you would tell them, this is the most important thing you need to know?
Oh my God, you're going to put me on the spotlight there. I actually have like an answer in my head. It's like formulating the words.
Okay.
I think for me, it would actually be that there's not actually a right or wrong way of doing a podcast, in terms of like, there's no real, it's not a step-by-step process. It's a journey. Like, it is a huge learning experience. And, I think what works for you, if you're like doing the podcast yourself, it will fall into place naturally, I guess. That is basically it. I mean, having this conversation with you, for me personally, I feel more confident in my podcast and to continue on being a co-host, if that makes sense. Because whereas before, I think I might have been a bit too hard on myself, and then once we started talking, I realized, the podcast, in comparison to your podcast, is still a baby. It's still a baby. So yeah, I think it's also, not to be too hard on yourself. I think to even start a podcast, it takes great courage. You come out of comfort zone. And more or less, it is a journey. Like, it doesn't, like, what one shoe does not fit all for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And, like what we sort of mentioning here, like you said, like every podcast is different. We sort of discussed it before. You can have like interview podcasts, theme-based podcasts. You can have your like solo podcast where you're literally just talking. And yes, it's not, there's not like one to compare to or things like that. It's like you said, like everyone's on their own podcast journey, and you know, we mentioned it before about like podcasts. You know, most podcasts don't, like, I guess most podcasts that get sort of set up don't always get past the second episode. Because like we were saying, people are sort of afraid, they don't see the numbers coming in, they're just like, oh, it's a lot of, like, I agree, like podcasting is a lot of work, but it's again one of those things of if you're enjoying it, then you'll be like, it's a lot of work, but you know, this is fun, I enjoy it. Like myself, you know, I'm a lot more confident with the video editing than probably I was to start with. But you know, there are still days where I'm just like, oh gosh, I've got to find time to edit this video so it can come out on time and do things like that. But yeah, no, I love doing Pick Up the Mic. I love, you know, interviewing people, and I know that it's something that comes with it, and it's just something that, you know, you just take on, and you're just like, this is something that I can work with.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
I feel the same.
Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, we've now come to the end, believe it or not, of this amazing discussion. And I want to just say a huge thanks to T for coming onto the podcast today. No, thank you for coming. Because yeah, it was, like I said, it was really nice to learn more about Let's Talk About It.
Please but also, check it out, guys.
Yeah, check it out. We'll put a link in the description as well, and we'll be sharing out whenever there's new episodes. So yeah, you'll either hear from them or you hear from us. But yeah, no, honestly, it was like really great to even learn more about yourself and like your podcasting journey. And yes, I think as well, it's nice to sort of know, like we like, I guess from not only like just interviewing yourself, but also like the other podcasts. It's also nice to know that like others sort of go through the same things that you, so like you were saying about like, you know, you don't always want to like compare yourself to others. That's something that I know sometimes we like, I do myself.
Actually, about the podcast. We do as humans though.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we've got another episode in the works here about something to do with like mindset and the like how we view things and stuff. Yeah, who knows? We might have another episode.
Hopefully you'll be joining us.
Yeah, definitely. We have been planning, and it has been in the works for some time. But I promise, I will be. You're hearing it here first, or you're seeing it in person first. I will be on Let's Talk About It at some point in the near future. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But yes, yeah. Like I said, thank you so much, T. If there's anyone in our audience who I guess, you know, wants to maybe know a bit more about you, a bit more about Let's Talk About It, what are some of the ways that they can sort of get in touch or find out more about Let's Talk About It?
So you can follow us or check out our Instagram. It's Let's Talk About It Brunel. You could also email us, which will be, oh god, did I send you the links for this?
You can send me the links. We'll put it in the bio. We'll put it everywhere.
I don't want to put too much pressure. The easiest and the quickest way to possibly reach out to us is literally following us on Instagram and sending us a DM.
Perfect. Oh, thank you very much for that. And yeah, thank you to you, our wonderful audience, for coming back for another episode. If you like this episode, like, comment, subscribe. It's truly appreciated. If you want to make sure that you don't miss the next episode, then just click the notification bell at the bottom of the video so you can get notified about when it's out. And finally, if you're interested in supporting the podcast, maybe you want to receive some perks, feel free to check out our Patreon page. The link is also in the description. But yeah, that's a bye from us here, and I guess that's a close on the student guide. And yeah, catch us the next time we open a new chapter in the student guide.
Thanks for listening, guys.